Coverings of spinal cord or meninges. Coverings or spinal meninges. If this is the commencement from the medulla, this one is the medulla, and the spinal cord from the medulla it descends down, and if we all consider that this is a spinal cord that ends at the level of intervertebral disc present in between the first and second lumbar vertebra. This is the spinal cord in front, and if we draw the section of the spinal cord like this, and say this is the vertebral canal inside which the spinal cord is sitting. First, the pia mater, the most integral part who blends with the central nervous system. Pia mater is such a layer of meninges that is intimately blended with the central nervous system. So the spinal pia, it is a continuation of the cerebral pia. First one, spinal pia, it is a continuation of cerebral pia. As it comes downwards, on laterally, it gives one pair of modification. This is at one side and this is at another side. Such the modifications of pia, that is tooth-like prolongations, it is present on both sides, and this one is called ligamentum denticulatum. So pia has one pair of ligamentum denticulatum, one on each side, and every sheet of ligamentum denticulatum, it has 21 tooth-like projections. Mind it, pia has two sheets of ligamentum denticulatum on both sides, and on each sheet there is 21 tooth-like projection. At the end of the spinal cord, the pia mater does not end at the level of L1. It has a tail-like long projection, and this tail-like long projection, it is present up to the first coccygeal vertebra, and this represents the fetal life attachment of the spinal cord. In the very fetal life, spinal cord was up to the coccygeal vertebra level. As the person becomes elder and elder, the vertebra develops, it increases in length. Spinal cord cannot catch up the length so much. So there is disproportionate growth of the vertebral column and spinal cord. So the spinal level raises up. But this attachment of pia mater, known as phylum terminal, it signifies the very primitive and first initial attachment of the spinal cord up to the level of coccygeal vertebra. Here also, if we see in the section, there will be ligamentum denticulata, and this is the pia mater blended with. But reaching the anterior part, there is crisscross orientation, and this one, when we consider the spinal cord as a column, this crisscross orientation of the pia mater, this known as linea splendens. If we see the spinal cord longitudinally, when we see in the live specimen, there is a glistening pia mater we can see, and this looks like a long line, so known as linea splendens. So above the pia there will be arachnoid matter. Definitely there will be arachnoid matter. Pia mater from posteriorly, from this pia mater till the arachnoid, there is a septum. This is also a modification of spinal pia known as subarachnoid septum. So spinal pia, it has four derivatives or four modifications of spinal pia. Number one, ligamentum denticulatum. There is one pair of ligamentum denticulatum, one sheet on each side, and every sheet has 21 teeth. Number two, phylum terminal. Number three, subarachnoid septum. And number four, linea splendens. Thing is that the sensory nerve enters through here and the motor nerve comes out. This ligamentum denticulatum demarcates or helps a neurosurgeon to locate the motor nerve and sensory nerve. The nerve in front of the ligamentum denticulatum is definitely the motor nerve, and here behind or posteriorly to the ligamentum denticulatum is sensory nerve. When neurosurgeon approaches from back, if the neurosurgeon approaches from back, what the nerve the neurosurgeon gets in front of the ligamentum denticulatum, it is sensory. And behind the ligamentum denticulatum, what the neurosurgeon gets is definitely motor. So ligamentum denticulatum, it is a guide for the neurosurgeon. So let us see the arachnoid matter. The spinal arachnoid matter, it ends up to the level of S2. The spinal arachnoid matter, it ends up to the level of S2. That is second sacral vertebra. Lower border of the second sacral vertebra. So here gets an enormous space for the flow of CSF, and this one is known as, this is the area for lumbar puncture. If we trace the dura, what happens for dura? Dura passes over the arachnoid. Previously, it was supposed, it was thought that the spinal dura also ends in the second sacral vertebral level. But nowadays it is told that the dura also blends and ends up to the first coccygeal vertebral level. So spinal dura also ends up to the first coccygeal vertebral level. So if we make a section at the level below the S2, we get only the pia mater surrounding dura mater. We will get pia surrounding dura. There is pia mater and we get surrounding, there is a layer of the dura. This is the layer of the dura. Whereas above the S2, this is the pia mater, then CSF, then arachnoid, then dura. So this part of phylum terminal is called phylum terminal internum, and this part of phylum terminal is called phylum terminal externum. This is phylum terminal externum, and this one is phylum terminal internum. On the lateral side, if this is a spinal nerve, if we see the spinal nerve, sensory and then motor, and finally these two meets together to make the spinal nerve, comes out to the intervertebral foramen. The dura and arachnoid prolongs up to this intervertebral foramen. The dura and arachnoid prolongs up to the intervertebral foramen. So they ends in the intervertebral foramen. They makes a goodbye till the intervertebral foramen. This is a dura, and if we see the arachnoid, this one is arachnoid. So dura and arachnoid, it ends till the intervertebral foramen. So the CSF flows till the intervertebral foramen in the lateral section. So this one is the area of the lumbar puncture. So in total, what we get, the modifications of spinal pia. Number 1, we get the ligamentum denticulatum, we get the subarachnoid septum, we get the linea splendens, and last and not the least, the phylum terminal.